Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, I have asked Cadell Buss. He is the founder and managing director of Chilwa Minerals, listing on the ASX today, the 5th of July, 2023. And the code is CHW. I got it mixed up before, but I know now it's CHW is the ASX code. They have an advanced mineral sands project over in Malawi. We're going to talk about what they're doing and why it's an advanced stage mineral sands project and perhaps what else they might have over there. Cadell, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kerry. It's exciting to be here, that's for sure.
And I really appreciate your time as well, because I know how busy it is when you start to get this close. Talk to us about who are Chilwa Minerals.
So Chilwa Minerals is a project located in southern Malawi. It's I suppose a critical minerals project focusing on mineral sands. However, such as these assets, there is the potential for rare earth. So yeah, it's an exciting project. It's one that we've been working on I've been working on for about 18 months. So, you know, to be here today is it's a good feeling.
He's got a big smile on his face. Two questions for you. You just said critical minerals. Is mineral sands critical minerals?
Well, it's interesting how these assets have changed, Kerry, over a period of time, and particularly because within mineral sands, and I think that's the commentary now that some of the operators are using, because there are elements such as monazite and xenotime within the assemblage of the mineral sands. So, you know, for us, having potential of products like monazite and xenotime means that we can explore for those things. So and we are doing that, you know, within, which I'll explain a bit later on when we do our drilling and the assays that we're doing. But yeah, so it's funny how it's changed.
Okay, before we get right into it, though, we did mention Malawi, and I think our audience out there might be thinking, oh, what's Malawi like as a jurisdiction? Are you comfortable over there?
Yeah, I was there in February, and it's a lovely place. In fact, they refer to it as the warm heart of Africa. So, you know, that's when you fly. Yeah, when you fly in, that's their logo as you go to the airport. And I mean, I've been dealing in Africa a bit, and I think the thing is also English law is also, you know, pretty handy compared to sort of some jurisdictions that have got French law. So, and then it's a stable government. So and there are a number of other ASX companies operating in Malawi. So I found it a very friendly place to be around, and the people are friendly. And as I said, I think that logo, the warm heart of Africa, sort of says a bit about it. But
and the government's pro mining. They're very keen for you to advance this project.
Yeah, there's I mean, the government have set a mandate where they'd like to, you know, start moving towards more mining. There's a lot of rural and farming sort of within their economy, so you can see the mandate the government set to really start to develop some of these projects. And clearly there's a few other ASX listed companies, and Toronto as well. We've got a company that's sort of about ours that's listed on the TSX. So yeah, I think they are proactive and can recognise that it's good for their future economy.
Now, before I move into the objectives of, because you've raised, I think, 8 million with the IPO.
Right.
We'll get into that in a minute, but I want to understand how you acquired the project, because from what I understand, I really need our audience to understand this. You acquired the project from Motorangel Investments. Now, they're a big construction company, and they've got a lot of history in Malawi. But what are the key factors? How did this happen?
So, yes, yeah, you're correct. So Motorangel, a very big construction company, founded in 1975, I think. So operating in Europe, Latin America, and Africa. And the grandson of the founder, Manuel Motor, who's actually the deputy chief executive of the whole group now, formed a subsidiary of Motorangel to operate in this space. And that company is Luso Global Mining. I was actually approached 4 weeks prior to COVID to go and work for Motorangel and the subsidiary Luso Global Mining. So that's actually how I came across the project. So I was working away for 18 months. We had a look at it. There's a number of different projects that came to us through Africa. And this asset was still in the Motorangel stable or the Luso Global Mining stable. So part of my DD in working for the company was to sort of, I suppose, look under the hood and do all the work regarding it. I fell in love with it. And it was a number of different reasons. A scoping study had been done by a company here in Perth, TZMI, who are well respected. And, the story is that, and it's a simple one, I sort of rang them up and said, I'm Cadell, I work for Luso Global Mining. Can you tell me a bit about this asset? And one thing led to another. I put a sort of an idea to Manuel and Motor to say, I'd really like to do this myself. So 18 months later, Kerry, here we are.
Well, they're a bit sad to see you go. Like you were working with them and then you said, no, I want to do this on my own.
Well, I think, it was, I'd like to think not, because at the end of the day, it's their, it started off as their project and we're developing their project. So it's been a collaboration. There's been, I had a bit more hair before I started, but, it's stressful. But, I think, all good things come to those that work hard for it. And, we believe in the asset. It's, Manuel's coming on the board. Alexander Shaw is also going to be on the board. He's the managing director of Luso. So, we'll be working together on this project. So in a way I left, but in another way I didn't.
Got it. So now that you're listing, what percentage does Motorangel still have with the project? What was the, I guess, how did it all work?
Yeah.
Together?
Well, and I think that's really important. It's a good question because, there'd been about 6.5 million Australians spent on the asset. So, and we wanted to make sure that, when we raised the money, that no cash went out of it. We wanted to make sure it all got spent in the right areas. So they were very, I think, gracious in the deal that we did. So we've offered, there's 19 million vendor shares. So they will own 30% of the company upon listing. And those vendor shares, they'll obviously be escrowed for 2 years, but Manuel has very graciously volunteered to have 50% of those shares escrowed for another 12 months. So 50% of them will be escrowed for 3 years. And I think that speaks volume of what they want out of the project. They're not interested in just turning a quick dollar. They, their business is, as I said, building things, mining, construction, EPC work. So, they want to hopefully see this progress into a project. So, they'll have 30% and have 2 representatives on the board.
All right, let's move more into the numbers, if you like. I'd like to understand, sure. I'm sure our audience would like to understand, you've raised 8 million. Motorangel clearly are very involved with this. Are they involved with drilling or anything like that? I want to know, where's the proceeds of what you've raised? Where's that going?
Well, again, and that's the value of having Motorangel as a partner, so to speak. So $4.5 million will be going directly into the ground. So that's in drilling, that's in assays, that's in ESG work, which has already commenced, and resource upgrades, competent person and the like. So $4.5 million will be going into the ground. One of the great values of having, and there's a number of Motorangel as part of my group, but we're doing what's called sonic drilling, which is a lot more expensive. And
why? Sorry to interrupt you. Why is sonic drilling so much more expensive?
It's just a technique. It's like in simple terms, it's like a vacuum technique. So if you look at air core compared to sonic, it helps your recoveries, and that's what's needed in this asset. So, the technique and the drills are a bit more expensive. So, and what's happened for us in dealing with Motorangel have actually gone and purchased a rig for us, which is fantastic.
Oh.
Now we've got quotes of around $180 US a meter for sonic drilling. So our original budget was around 1.6 million for 7,000 meters. We are now doing an open book transaction. That transaction is in the prospectus. So we're doing $60 a meter, which is incredible value straight off the bat. So what was a $1.6 million contract for 7,000 meters will now be the same budget for 17,000 meters. So straight away, we've created value for people to, because we'll be getting so much bang for our buck with our drilling, which is fantastic.
All right. So as you get into that, I want to understand what the main deposit looks like. What have you got? What's the license area? How big it is? Sorry, lots of questions here. but I want to
Yeah, that's okay.
kind of understand, what is this deposit? Where is it? Because I think you're close to the border of Mozambique, aren't you?
Yeah, we're on
How big this is.
western. That's right. Well, it's actually quite big. So originally, the work that's been done, and this is, I suppose, part of the DD I did in looking under the hood is a phrase I've used sometimes. So the original work that was done and the scoping study that was done back in 2015 and a maiden resource as well was actually over a 400 square kilometre area. And during, I suppose, that time frame of DD myself, we've uncovered another area to the south. So we're now actually talking about 800 square kilometres of the tenement area. So it's a very, very big area. The main drilling that has been done, or the work that's been done on the first 400 kilometres, there's 4 deposits there. And those deposits are spread across that 400 square kilometres. And that's where all the previous drilling was done. So we'll start on that drilling in the first 400 kilometres, so to speak, and then we'll do work to the southern area as well. So we've got a fair bit of work in front of us.
All right. I am catching you on a day that you're listing. I just want to understand the news flow. We're just coming into the new financial year.
Yeah.
What's the news flow going to be looking like for the rest of the year? Because you said a moment ago that you're putting 4.5 million into the ground. You've raised 8.
Yeah.
I kind of want to understand the milestones for current shareholders or future shareholders, the value milestones, the understanding of how fast you're going to go.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. You're right, Kerry. Apart from, as you said, all the listing stress that goes with it, we have been working in the background to make sure that come listing day we were ready to go. So for example, the rig. And that, again, the value of having motor, they've purchased the rig. The rig it came from the Netherlands. It arrived in Durban a week or so ago. It's clearing customs. It's on its way to Malawi. So there'll be training for the rig starting on the 10th of July. And then we're hoping to be drilling sort of a couple of weeks after that. So straight away we'll be into a drilling. We're also need to finalise some air mag contracts, because we need to fly over the southern area to really establish where that strand line is in the southern region. And drilling straight away will be interesting, because previously with the campaign in 2014-15, air core was used, so they weren't able to get to really understand where the footwall was on the project. So one of the things about using a sonic drill rig is our competent person has advised we'll only need to twin 5%. So, which is fantastic for us, because it means we can actually do more infill and more stepping out, and then also be able to find where that footwall is. So, there'll be a lot of news flow, and ranging from drilling to assays, and we've already established a process of how we need to get our assays tested. That'll be done here in Perth, actually. So there'll be enough news flow, I would like to think.
I'm getting a sense, Cadell, because you worked in stockbroking before, project finance. Yeah. You understand the economics around projects. I think that's pretty important. I often say to people, it's people and then projects. I guess what I want to understand, and there's a lot of companies out there, companies doing mineral sands. If you could just elaborate why you think Chilwa is different from so many others out there. Is it because there's a lot of work that's been done? Is it the partnership with Motorangel? What do you think makes you guys stand out?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think we're fairly cheaply priced. I think that's pretty good, and comparison to the amount of work that has been done. And for a project to be listed, we've got an inferred resource, albeit not overly big, but I think that the potential is there to sort of expand on that. And again, having a scoping study that's been done, it gives us sort of a pathway, if you like, of what we need to do to quickly move this along. So, that's that point of difference. It's not a green play exploration where we don't have where we're looking to sort of drill blindly, so to speak. We've got a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of work that's been done that will help us sort of shine the light on our next sort of 6 to 12 months. And because of that work, we think we're quite well advanced, even though you call this an exploration play.
You said briefly, and I picked up on it, the monazite, and I can't pronounce the other one. But when I first was looking at Chilwa Minerals, I was looking at it as a pure mineral sands play. But are you saying that there's some rare earths in there as well? Does that give you some added value down the track? Because rare earths, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, are not rare. They're just kind of tricky to process further down the track.
That's true. And I think that the process for us is actually been an interesting one. So when in uncovering and doing all sort of the research and speaking to TZMI, there was some samples that had been sitting there since 2015, and I took those samples over to the ALS lab in Perth and had them tested, and they came up quite reasonably significant for rare earths. Now, caveat on that statement, Kerry, is we don't know where they came from when the asset. So to be fair, they were sitting there for nearly 10 years. But what they did do, it gave us two things. The competent person who wrote his independent geological report, this is all factual in the prospectus, has said this has got rare earth potential. And that's, for the competent person to say that, that's all you need. The other thing was that as a board, we changed our budget from being just to test for mineral sands to then also be testing for rare earth. So once the assays come into Perth, we will be testing for all those commodities. So it's a starting point, and we believe that it warranted to change those budgets.
Motorangel, let's go back to them, because you talked that post the listing, they'll have about 30% of the company. What are they like when it comes to working with you? And do they really understand this asset? Where's the value having them on the board?
Well, I think a number of things. Firstly, the subsidiary company of Motorangel is Luso Global Mining, of which Alexander Shaw is the managing director. Now, Alexander is a geologist. He has a PhD in the topic, actually. So he's not just a geologist; he's a clever one. And so and I think he gets sick and tired of me ringing him every night asking me about the asset, because and I really use his knowledge a lot. So that's going to be the initial point, the value of just helping us and his guidance in relation to from the geology. I think as we move along, Motorangel have been in Malawi for 30 years. So that in itself helps me. Any jurisdictional risk. They've got 400 staff there. So when I was there in February, we went into the ministry and we went in with Motorangel, and this is Mr. Buss, he's our project partner, and those sorts of things. So it really helps to have those relationships. So they will add value. And I think, having Manuel, as hopefully one day we move down, or up the curve to be a project, although a lot of work's got to go down to be done before that. But, I think having them involved is better than not.
Any challenges? You're probably going to say, no, Kerry, it's all good. But I have to ask the question, can you see any challenges with the project and where you are? Is it the size or
I think I've got a few scars to recognise that there's always going to be challenges, right? So it's one of those things where, there will be challenges, the same as anything. But I think the same as any challenges and adversity, you have to work your way through them. And, we've got a good team. ALS are going to be doing our assays, and we've got a good company that's going to be doing our competent person. So, I think all those things that you work together, and I suppose putting my project management hat on, you just methodically go through it all. But right here and right now, there isn't any challenges. But of course there'll be some, and it's how you deal with them, how you methodically go about them. But right now, I think for the next sort of 12 months, I've got a very clear mandate of what we need to do. We need to prove up the resource. We need to, as quickly as possible, potentially, make a decision on how far away we could be for a PFS study. But really, it's about drilling. It's about getting the assays. We've got a really good program of getting the assays out of Malawi down to ALS in South Africa. They aren't quite set up for mineral sands, so we wanted to make sure we've got the best lab. ALS here in Perth do all of Aluka's work, so we've got a process in place already, so that we can get those assays down here as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's about proving that up, which will then feed into a resource, which will then, will lead into a decision about a PFS study.
Wow, lots going on. I just want to ask you this before we have to wrap up. You got skin in the game, Mr. Buss?
Yes, I have. I purchased shares at seed, and then I also purchased shares at listing as well. I'm in it for the long haul, as I said. All of us are. I'm very proud of the fact that there was no founder shares in this. I'll be rewarded at the end with the asset, hopefully. And I wanted to make sure that all shareholders win, and I very firmly believe in that. I want everyone. We want to give this the best opportunity, and we're spending considerable money on the asset. And if we follow a procedure, then we'll give it every chance, Kerry.
Yeah, and you are very process driven. Look, I'll talk to you again when some of these assay results come out. But for now, Cadell, just tell us this. Give us 3 reasons. People know, as I wrap up, I want to ask you 3 reasons people should be sitting up and taking notice of Chilwa Minerals. And as I said at the beginning, the ASX code is CHW, listing today. Why should they sit up and take notice?
Well, look, I think. Well, I'm not sure whether there's more than 3, Kerry, but I suppose if you're going to limit me to 3, I think we've got the relationship with Motorangel is value, and there's no doubt about that. And I think also a tight capital structure. I mean, I've raised 3.5 million myself from a chairman's list and people that have supported me, so they want to go through the whole thing. But I think the first thing is, there's a lot of work that's been done on the asset, and I think we've relatively, an advanced project for what we have. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is, the fact that we're about to start drilling, and also the value we've got out of this drilling contract. What was going to be a 7,000 metre is now 17,000 metres. So for the same dollar value. So that's the second. And I think finally, it's the asset. Originally, all the work that's been done, we were talking about 400 square kilometres. We're now talking about 800 square kilometres. So I think an Australian line that is significant. So I'd like to think that would be the third and final one.
Good on you. Well, Cadell, it's been absolutely wonderful to chat to you. All the best. Thank you so much for joining me on listing day. Wish you all the best, and come back and chat to us very soon. Thanks so much.
We will. Thanks, Kerry. Thanks for your time.